When we were standing at Andrew's building, you were talking. We were standing, looking over London, and you said, "Look at this place. None of this had ever been. Things just popped up. Nobody sat down and actually organised it." Do you want to talk a little bit about that, about the cities and how the cities we live in now are just urban sprawl? There's been no planning involved, and how the Venus Project is wants to readdress that, and
Okay.
and then if you could move on into automation too. That's just
Instead of urban sprawl,
yeah.
what we want to do is ask, what is a city? What does a city mean to people? What kind of world do you want to live in? They don't know. They usually don't.
Yeah.
So they do the same thing you've been doing. A bunch of houses in a row, air conditioning out of each window, rather than cool air pumped to all the houses. You just take in so much cool air, and the energy you consume has to do with your needs. If he says the air is too cold, he says, no, it's too warm. He says, it's just right. So what we have to do is zone cooling, you know what I mean? It's cool in your area, warm in your area. So zone cooling is just a central unit with vents on it that can direct cool air to your area, warm air to yours, and it's all one system. I never showed you this, but I don't show it to everybody because they make money with it. They take out patents on it. This is the floor plan of a building. All right, this is the living room, all of this area. This is the bathroom. This is the hallway. Now, one hallway serves 1, 2, 3, 4 outlets. But most of your building has a lot of hallway in it. You can't do anything with that. So the wall divider in this room has a closet on this side and the closet opens on that side. So you don't have to make the walls too thick. The air conditioning is up above this area and vents into all the rooms. Do you understand that? Now, if you had a hurricane and it blew against this wall, this unusual triangle delivers the load to the 4 walls. Do you understand that? If you make a hallway shaped like this, and you have walls here, that delivers, if this is a building, if a hurricane hits this wall, this structure presses against that and that, so all the walls take up the load.
Right.
Minimum hallways. You say, I like hallways. Well, if you make a lot of hallways in a house, you're losing living area. Now, if you put rooms that are super extravagant in each house, then you're depriving other people of material resources. So what we try to do is design the most efficient hallway so loads are distributed in a hurricane to minimize danger in living systems. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you say, the hell with other people, I like a big house, then you don't understand what the Venus Project is trying to do. I want to go back to another system. This is ancient Rome. Then they put a column up here. I must have explained this to some people. This is what the buildings look like in ancient Rome. Something like that, real fast. See it? Can you see it? And then they carved all kinds of curlicues in here and statues of men on horses, whatever they needed. They needed all these columns because they could not support the roof in the old days. But today, you have cantilever beams, so you don't need all these columns. But in Washington, they were impressed by ancient Rome, and they put all these kinds of things in libraries. That is no longer necessary. Conservation of materials are strong enough to span a great distance with only 2 columns. But people say, yeah, but I like that. Well, you're wasting resources. Either you house the world, build hospitals all over the world, but if you use these columns, you're wasting existing resources. Is that real clear?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm against this, except in Rome.
Yes.
If we go to Rome, I want to preserve these areas so people can see what things used to be like. I'm not against destruction of the pyramids. I'd like to build a glass building over it so that they don't rot anyway, and show people what it used to be like. But I'm not against building a pyramid building. I don't know what that would serve. Or if a guy dies, you build a gigantic pyramid that cost years to make. And there's one guy buried in it, and his slaves, which are killed, so he'll have slaves when he gets to heaven. I don't know if you know that. But there's so much stupidity in the world. I says, I like a pyramid. I love these columns. That means he doesn't give a shit about other people. I do.
Because we're moving from vanity to utility.
Yes.
That's basically.
That's a hard thing to get across. He says, do you understand this? Now, sometimes the government will build a monument to veterans. There's a big thing you walk through. They have parades through it, and the veteran statues all over the place and names, and it might cost $4 to $5 million. I say, take that money and put it in the veterans' hospitals for MRI machines, X-ray machines, crutches, wheelchairs. We don't want any monuments to veterans. We want things that need, books, help, artificial legs, artificial eyes, whatever the hell they need. Do you understand that? The guy said, well, what's the matter with a monument? He's a monument builder. He's sincere, but he's ignorant. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Yes.
Any questions about that?
No, that's a really good point.
I have nothing I'm not against this. I'm just against it in a world where you have limited resources. Now, here's the city again. It's round, not because I like round cities. If you have a production plant that produces automobiles, this is called linear. The production lines run that way. All I want to do is make a center where the planning engineers for automotive transportation work. So this is a production line. This is a production line for trucks. This is a production line for Jeeps. All of these production lines come out of the central planning area, like this. Do you understand the drawing? They're not necessarily 8. There may be as many as needed. But this end of the factory is up off the ground, so's the rest of it. And the vehicle that picks up the finished products travels and picks up from 20 factories and delivers materials to the factories. Now, if you want to see anybody, go to the central planning. These are the guys that plan all the production lines. But if you build a factory in Detroit like this, then you build one over here, Toyota. You got another factory over here. Your trains have to go all over the place to pick up things. In the free enterprise system, these are all separate companies. Here we share ideas in production. Do you understand that? It's got to come out cheaper. It's got to provide more cars than this system. Now, another thing. This is so you'll have arguments to win over ordinary people. If you look at a railroad yard today, you'll see lots of tracks with hundreds of freight trains sitting there. And they hope next month orders will come in so those freight trains will be in use. We always have all our freight trains in use. There's no such thing as downtime because it's a co-op. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
If you don't do that, you'll always have trucks sitting in yards hoping that orders will go up next month. These are vehicles. They don't need to rest. Trains don't need to sleep for 3 nights in a row. So we have our factories going night and day. And you have a swing shift until it's automated. The reason for it night and day, you got a bunch of machines. If you turn it off at night, the machines don't need to rest. You can turn it off once a month for servicing. That's all right. Or a night, 3 nights or 5 nights of servicing. But if you don't do this, if you do what they ordinarily do, you have to take my word for it if you don't know this. If this is a factory, and this is the parking lot, or this is a shopping center, and this is the parking lot. If you make a shopping center round, that's shoes, this is furniture, this is stuff to eat, whatever you got here, you park adjacent to where you're going. In this system, you walk through the whole shopping center, and then you have to go back to where you started. In this system, you start here and you always come back to where you're at. So it's cheaper for automobiles to park in adjacent areas. But if this area is larger, more people are going here, you have movable walls. So they slide, and in the shopping of food, say it's larger, you roll your walls over. Do you understand what I'm saying? This way you build a factory, and if business is bad, it closes. You move your walls up and back for different changes in production and need. And you have round factories with walls that travel on rails up and back, and each size can be varied depending on how you're doing. If you're feeding enough people, you can move your wall over and make it smaller. If you don't have enough food, you make it larger. Is that real clear? This is the detail I don't give out, because people will patent it and start using it, and they'll make money on it commercially. So I don't like to give out detail of how the system works. When a guy, I talked to you about the airplanes, I think if the landing gear fails, all that's patentable stuff. And I'd like it to be part of the new economy. Now, if Detroit does this, you know, in an automobile, Toyota will do the same thing. And then Toyota, if the Toyota does it, I think they can beat Detroit. They're a little more ingenuity. And so here, Detroit is up with a big factory that's automated, which they can't sell. If Toyota can turn out the same product cheaper, you can't sell your factory. Do you understand that? If you have a factory that turns out refrigerators, and you have a factory that turns out, if you're 10 times as fast as this guy, you don't want to share it with this guy, because you want to maintain the competitive edge. So this guy can't sell his factory, but he borrowed money from banks to build in this sort of stuff. So the bank says, how long will it take you to amortize the cost of that? He says, 4 years, then I'll change my production. But you've got better production methods. And he can't afford to keep borrowing money from banks and updating his equipment. That's why the free enterprise can't keep up with things. But when it belongs to the public, what you really need instead of a production line is machines that can change their function to mass production, modify them, make them so they're flexible. Do you know what that means? If you don't know what it means,
less moving parts, more maneuverability.
You know what jigs and fixtures are in industry?
No.
Like they have tube bending equipment that'll bend pipes of different diameters.
Yes.
All right. So what you need is dies that can bend pipes any size, so they can get smaller or larger instead of a fixed production system. That all machines of you will be designed for maximum flexibility. Instead of people welding things together, which takes time and money, if you don't understand this drawing, this is a drawing of an I-beam. I'd like you to understand it. You understand that drawing of an I-beam? The I-beam has a thing sticking out on it, and it has what looks like a half a buck, very thick, sticking out here. And then the walls have a keyhole in them that look like this. And you stick this into the keyhole, drop it down, you don't need to weld it. And you can disassemble it faster if you've got better ideas. And you can use these beams over again in different ways. There are thousands of different multi-use products, but people that do welding make a lot of money.